Congratulations, true crime addicts. We've survived another week. It is Friday, July 19th, 2024. This week, everything we know about Thomas Matthew Crooks right now. A young female soldier was found stabbed to death outside Fort Campbell, and Santa Claus was almost involved in mass murder. What? Stay tuned.
Yes. Super excited. We are all pumped to have James Renner.
James Renner on.
That James Renner has zeroed in on.
James Renner once again drops a bombshell.
Investigative journalist, reporter James Renner, who's been on the podcast, long-time friend of mine.
And welcome back to True Crime This Week with me, your host, James Renner. I'm always here. I'm back again. It's another Friday morning. I've missed you. I was here last week, but then on the weekend I went on a little trip for research for a new true crime book to be announced soon, and had many interesting conversations. But I'm back here, and what a week this has been. We got some stories to get to. But first, if you like this show, tell some friends about it. Drop me some stars. It doesn't take that long. You know, it doesn't matter how many stars, but 5 would do. On Spotify, on Apple Podcast, wherever you get True Crime This Week. On YouTube, subscribe or like. As the kids say, punch that subscribe button. I'm here every Friday morning giving you the top true crime stories that you might have missed this week. You don't even have to watch the news. Just tune in once a week to your old pal James Renner. I'll tell you what's going on. And then you can talk to your true crime friends about it and, and sound like you're smart or something. And as always, I want to thank my buddy Walter for manning the camera. Walter's just back from Dr. Ruth Westheimer's will reading. Apparently they had a little dalliance in the 70s, if you know what I mean. Let's get to the top stories. It's a very serious week. No doubt about it. The top true crime story in the world is the attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump. And you've learned about it as it's unfolded since last Saturday. And while we still don't understand the motive of the shooter, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, we do have a lot more information. And we've learned some significant information about this young man himself this week. And I'm going to get you up to speed. Here's what we know so far. This is according to ABC News, the Associated Press, New York Post. Crooks was from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, a town of 33,000 residents, located about 45 miles from that Butler Farm Show fairgrounds where the shooting happened last week. He worked as a dietary aide at a nursing home and rehab center near his home. He graduated from Bethel Park High School in 2022 and was known there as a loner who liked hunting and playing video games. Some classmates have said he was relentlessly bullied as a student, and he would sometimes come to school dressed in his hunting uniform or outfit. He tried out for the school's rifle team, which, by the way, is totally a thing we shouldn't have these days, right? Like, what are schools doing teaching kids how to shoot? I mean, it's weird. I didn't know that was a thing. Anyways, he tried out for the school's rifle team, and he didn't get in because he was such a bad shot. It's unclear what Crooks' personal political leanings were since he was registered as a Republican, but had also donated $15 to a liberal political action committee on the day of Biden's inauguration. Now, in the days leading up to the shooting, Crooks searched the internet for information about both Trump and President Biden and discovered the dates of Trump's rally in Butler that way. He also searched for info related to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. He also left a not a voice message, but a post on Steam stating, quote, "July 13th will be my premiere. Watch it as it unfolds," end quote. The day before the shooting, Crooks did some target practice at a local rifle range. And on the day of the assassination attempt, Crooks asked his father if he could borrow his AR-15 style rifle, the weapon of choice for school shooters these days, telling his dad he planned to go to the shooting range again. The gun appears to have been purchased legally by his father. He then went to a local gun shop where he bought 50 rounds of 5.56 millimeter ammo. That's in layman's terms, those are big fucking bullets. He then went to a local. He then drove to the rally in Butler, and it parked about a third of a mile away at a gas station. He was wearing a T-shirt that advertised Demolition Ranch, a popular YouTube channel that glamorizes handguns and assault rifles. Crooks was spotted an hour before the shooting, walking around as he cased the venue. Some witnesses reported him as a suspicious person when they saw him. Eventually, Crooks made his way to a nearby building outside the perimeter of security and climbed onto air conditioners to access the roof of one building before moving to a taller building beside it, where he could see Trump speaking to the crowd. This now puts Crooks 150 meters away from Trump, and that's not as far of a distance as it seems, because that's actually the distance from which Army recruits must hit a target to qualify for the M16 rifle. According to an unclassified briefing released on Wednesday, law enforcement officials said Secret Service snipers first spotted Crooks on the roof 20 full minutes before he opened fire. A Butler Township police officer, alerted by people who spotted Crooks on the roof, climbed up to stop him, but retreated when the young man pointed his gun at him. At that time, he began shooting at Trump, and we've all seen how seriously close he got to assassinating the former president. While he missed Trump, Crooks hit and killed 50-year-old firefighter Corey Comparatori, who shielded his family from the attack. After he was shot to death by Secret Service snipers, police also found that his car was loaded with explosives, but thankfully none of those went off. And here's the detail I find most interesting about all this, and I don't see it talked about a lot. Crooks did not have ID on him that day, and the FBI has stated that they identified him using DNA. But I don't know, and I run a nonprofit here in Ohio. We raise money for DNA testing, genetic genealogy. I know the labs, I know the process, I know how it works, but I don't know of any DNA or genetic genealogy that can identify somebody so quickly. Do they have some sort of technology and means that the general public doesn't know about yet? It's weird, and I want to know more about that. Thankfully, Trump was not assassinated, but we got really, really damn close. This is not something we want to see here in the States. This is not how we do it. And unfortunately, the attempt on Trump's life only served to magnify the hate and paranoia coming from both the right and the left. Like many of you, I guess I spent hours scrolling through Twitter and TikTok, Facebook, reading posts as info began to trickle in. Conspiracy theories popped up immediately, suggesting it was an inside job. One member of Congress suggested it was Biden's fault. Others blamed the Secret Service and local police, posting pictures of private citizens and doxing innocent people as they searched for someone to blame. But in the end, it sure looks like Thomas Matthew Crooks was just a sad, troubled kid who was bullied at school and was seeking some sort of lasting legacy. A young man who had easy access to guns that could kill the former leader of the free world. So maybe that's where we should be looking. That's just my opinion. We're going to get more info in the weeks to come. But what a crazy, crazy thing to happen. Strange story out of Miami this week. Florida real estate mogul Sergio Pino died by suicide Tuesday morning as FBI agents raided his home looking for evidence in a murder-for-hire plot, according to the New York Post. Here's how everything went down. Pino's wife of 32 years, her name's Tatiana, started getting sick in 2022. When she went to the hospital, where she had to be intubated, doctors found fentanyl in her system. Since, she doesn't use fentanyl, she grew a little suspicious that her husband was trying to kill her. She filed for divorce in April of that year and went to live with her sister. That's when the feds believe Pino went to a part-time worker on his yacht and asked if that guy knew anybody who could get rid of her for good. According to the FBI, this employee connected him with 3 hitmen, And the plan was to pay them $150,000 up front and $150,000 after she was dead. In August of 2023, someone driving a rented Home Depot flatbed truck slammed into the passenger side of her SUV before driving away. Her sister's vehicles were also involved in an arson attack. Pino has yet to be charged, but the FBI raided his business in June and took away some evidence before returning this week with another warrant. Pino's body was found in his upstairs bedroom at his multi-million-dollar mansion in Coral Gables, which just proves what we used to say as kids: mo money, mo problems. More details were released this week in the stabbing death of 23-year-old U.S. Army Private First Class Katia Dueñas-Aguilar, according to Texas Public Radio. On May 18th, Katia's body was found in her apartment near Fort Campbell, where she was stationed. She'd been stabbed almost 70 times in her upper body and neck. Now, Fort Campbell is on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. She was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division. A toxicology report, here's the new detail. This toxicology report has revealed that at the time of her death, Aguilar had a blood alcohol content of 0.16, which is above the legal limit, and also traces of GHB in her system. GHB is known as the date rape drug. No one has been charged with her murder, and there's a $55,000 reward for information that could lead to the arrest of her killer. Now, I read a report once from an FBI profiler about how stabbings are often seen in violent sexual assaults, as the stabbing itself is seen by the perp as a form of forcible penetration. And now there is, I know that sounds a little wonky, a little woohoo or whatever, but there does seem to be a pattern with that, and it often involves impotent men that have to use things like GHB and other means in order to get their victims. So that's the type of person they're looking for here. Is it somebody from base? Is it somebody related to the Army? There's lots of things that are going to be coming out in the months to come. So keep an eye on this case, because I think it'll just get bigger in the coming weeks. Those are the top stories. We've got lots more to come after the break, though. I have to tell you about this crazy case out of Australia. There's a trial going on this week that is insane. And some cold case updates and weird news. Lots more to come. I'll be back in 2 and 2.
Please hang up and try again.
And we're back with more True Crime this week. These next stories are brought to you by Crystal Pepsi. You've never seen a taste like this. I have to tell you about this trial out of New South Wales, Australia that's going on. 64-year-old Robert Geeves and his wife Anne are on trial for murder in a twisted story involving a woman who disappeared in 2002, according to The Guardian. Amber Haigh was just 19 years old when she was last seen in June of 2002. She'd gotten involved with the much older Robert Geeves at some point and had a baby with him, a son who was just 5 months old. Now here's a picture of them together, where Geeves totally gives Hills Have Eyes. There was testimony this week from Hayes' cousin, Paul Harding, who claims Geeves violently assaulted Haigh after catching them having sex on a hidden camera. Yes, you heard that right. After the assault, Haigh called Harding and told him the story about how it went down. During that testimony, it was revealed that Haigh had previously gotten pregnant by Harding, but had opted to terminate the pregnancy before being pulled into a bizarre relationship with the Geeves, whose lawyers argue had wanted Haigh as a surrogate mother for a new child. Although her body has never been found, the coroner has ruled that she died from homicide or misadventure. Geeves said he and his wife last saw her when they drove her to a railway station so she could visit her father, who was at the time dying in a hospital. But they did not report her missing for a couple weeks. No matter how the jury rules in this case, they'll certainly vote unanimously that this entire case is really gross. Murder Inc. record CEO Irv Gotti was accused of sexual assault this week by a former girlfriend, according to TMZ. Court documents allege that Gotti met the woman at a poker tournament in 2020 and then took her on vacation to St. Martin. But once they were there, she says Gotti threatened to send her home if she didn't have sex with him. She claims he also forced her to perform oral sex on him in an elevator at the Four Seasons Hotel in Miami in 2022, and then again in an Uber later that year. Real classy guy, this Irv Gotti. Strange that the owner of Murder, Inc. would have done something so heinous. You just never know. The Independent reports this week that Andrew Malanson, who was wrongly imprisoned for rape for 17 years, could have been freed a decade ago. 57-year-old Malanson was jailed for life in 2004. His conviction was overturned in July 2023 after the discovery of new DNA evidence. In 2009, Malanson had applied for his case to be reviewed by the Criminal Cases Review Commission, which investigates miscarriages of justice in Great Britain. But after considering it for 3 years, the CCRC refused to order further forensic testing that would have proved he was innocent, just like he said. What is the use of a commission like this if they don't take such easily proven cases? That's the question here. Malanson told reporters this week that, quote, "It needs to be torn down and completely rebuilt," end quote. A legal review concluded that he could have been out of prison 10 years ago if the commission had done their job. Expect many people to be sacked in the coming weeks. A pedophile who escaped prison has been found after 30 years on the run, according to CBS News. Stephen Craig Johnson was serving time in an Oregon state prison for sexual abuse and sodomy when he fled from a work crew in November 1994. But U.S. Marshals finally caught up with him in Macon, Georgia on Tuesday after they discovered that Johnson had stolen the identity of a child who died in Texas years ago. Now 70 years old, Johnson has been using the name William Cox since at least 2011. After his arrest, the Marshal Service said something very interesting. They said they'd caught him using, quote, "new investigative technology employed by the Diplomatic Security Service," end quote. I'm a pretty smart guy, I like to think, but I've never heard of this Diplomatic Security Service before, so I had to look it up. It's the law enforcement arm of the State Department, and they're tasked with investigating visa and passport fraud. So the question is, did he take a trip outside the United States with a fake passport? Is that how they caught him? I don't know, but it's interesting because we don't yet know what this technology was. He's currently still in Georgia, awaiting extradition to Oregon. Neighbors said he seemed like such a nice old man. Let's jump over to weird news, shall we? 21-year-old Mikhail Chikavishvili was indicted this week on charges that he was planning a mass attack in New York City, the details of which make him seem like a weird villain out of some dark comic book. Authorities say Mikhail, originally from Eastern Europe, is the leader of a neo-Nazi group known as the Maniac Murder Cult, according to NPR. You might want to work on your branding there. According to court documents, in September 2023, Mikhail tried to recruit an undercover FBI agent to put ricin, that's the stuff from Breaking Bad that Walter White put in that woman's coffee and killed her. It's very fatal. Very fatal. It's fatal. The idea was to put ricin in candy and then dress up as Santa Claus and hand the candy out to Jewish children in New York City. Apparently, in all of his villainous planning, Mikhail forgot that Jewish children don't believe in Santa Claus. Mikhail was arrested in Moldova and is expected to be extradited to Brooklyn, where he faces 4 counts of hate crimes and acts of mass violence. Over to pop culture. The recommended true crime documentary this week is The Sinon Fix, which you can find on Max. It's a 4-part documentary series. Here's the write-up. Sinon, the brainchild of Charles Chuck Dietrich, began in 1958 as a storefront rehab serving heroin addicts. Sinon quickly grew, evolving into a complex system of businesses and egalitarian communal living led by Chuck and his wife Betty. Over time, the therapies became increasingly extreme, devolving into paranoid behavior and cult-like mandates, and culminating in charges of child abuse, assault, and even attempted murder. Yeah, that's the thing with cults. It all ends the same way. This is essentially it's a version of AA that just went totally crazy. The 4-part documentary series, The Sinon Fix, explores how the organization's potential to revolutionize healing spiraled into a destructive force. So if you like cults, you like true crime, you're going to like that. And the book, the True Crime Book of the Week. This one came out of nowhere. I'd not heard of it. It just dropped, I think, at the very end of last month. It's about an unsolved case that I've paid attention to in the past, but it just came out of nowhere. And you're gonna want to read this. It spent the last 4 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It's called College Girl Missing, and it's by Sean Cohen. Here's the write-up. College student Lauren Spear was pursuing her dreams, joining her boyfriend at a party school 800 miles from home. Social and gregarious, studying fashion and rooming with friends, Lauren embraced her new adventure with the zeal of a young woman who suddenly had everything she desired. But there was a dark side that she and her inner circle kept secret. That's the part I'm curious about. And because I've written about these unsolved cases, these missing women that are propped up as being perfect to a fault. We're all complicated human beings. Once you start peeling back the layers, you find some very interesting things in these cases. Apparently, Cohen found it. And one more warm June evening, after heading out with friends, she seemingly vanished. When investigators retraced Lauren's last steps using eyewitness accounts and security camera footage, the evidence ended at the doorstep of a group of wealthy, well-connected male students. It's the first I've heard of that. With original reporting including new testimony, witnesses never shared with police, College Girl Missing takes readers back to that fateful night and dives into the disappearance that captured front-page headlines around the world. Investigative journalist Sean Cohen breaks more than a decade of silence as he pursues the truth. What really happened to Lauren Spear? And I give this guy credit because I personally know how difficult it is to write books about unsolved cases. For many reasons. One, if you get a solved case, you've got all the documents to fall back on that are public. In unsolved cases, those are not public yet. So it's slippy. It's slippery at the very least. It's really hard to do. And he has managed to put this together, which is a triumph in itself. So very interested to check that out and find out what the new news is in that case. And that's the news for this week. We had a beautiful day here in Ohio, 72 degrees, partly cloudy. We only get like 5 of these days every week. I'm going to go out and enjoy the weekend. You should too. And in the words of the incomparable Murray Saul, the godfather of Cleveland radio, we gotta get down, damn it. True Crime This Week is a Fearful Symmetry production. Photo and artwork are licensed through Shutterstock. If you like the cut of my jib, I have another podcast you might enjoy called The Philosophy of Crime, in which I attempt to solve the big questions behind our true crime obsession by looking to philosophy for answers. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Sit, Brownie, sit. Good dog.